I'm rummaging through the Sicko Satchel, aka our mailbag, looking for your sickest questions on the Charlotte Hornets, including, is Knueppel hitting the rookie wall, and what has been the biggest flop so far this season for the Charlotte Hornets? That's all ahead today on Locked On Hornets.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
Welcome in. This is Locked On Hornets, your daily podcast on the Charlotte Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm Doug Branson. You can find my work on Every Hornets Boxscore.com. You can also follow me on X at Doug Branson LOH. I'm usually joined by Walker Mail of WFNZ 12 to 3 every day on the Wes and Walker show. But he has the week off. He has the rest of the month of November off, as I cover here. But we will be back December 1st to talk about the Charlotte Hornets together once again. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. I thought, after that win against the Chicago Bulls, talked a lot about that game in the last episode. I thought I would end the month of November by answering your questions, not only about that win, but just on the state of the franchise right now. So I put the all call out to the Sicko Brigade. Join subtext.com/Locked On Hornets, 7-day free trial if you've never joined the Sicko Brigade before. And you get to ask whatever question you want. And I'm going to make up a stat here, but I'd say I answer at least 91.7% of questions asked. I'm not perfect. I'd never claim to be, but I do get as many of these questions answered as humanly possible. So let's not waste any time. Let's answer as many of these as possible today. And the first one comes to us from Anita of the 24th Plumlee Division, who asks, is Khan hitting the rookie wall, the dreaded rookie wall? And a good time to ask this question, because after seeming like he could not help himself from scoring 28 points on 5 or 6 made threes over the past 2 games, it's been much more of a struggle. 12 points on 2 of 9 from 3 against the Chicago Bulls in that win. And then 0 of 7 from 3 against the Knicks, the first game this season that he wasn't able to knock down a 3, and only 6 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists in 29 minutes of play. So is he hitting the rookie wall? My answer would be this. I hope so. I hope he's hitting the rookie wall this early, but I even stretch to say this early, because you have to think about this. For Knueppel, he just played this win over the Chicago Bulls. He just played in his 19th NBA game. And what's he averaging minutes-wise? Can I pull that up very quickly? Minutes-wise this season, per game, can I get it? 33.3 minutes per game. 19th NBA game, okay? You think back to his year at Duke. So 19th game, by the way, it's November 28th. Been about a month, maybe a little over a month of real time, 19 games. If you look back at his schedule at Duke, it took him from November 4th to January 25th. January 25th. That's 2 months from now. That's how long it took him to play 19 games for Duke. So, yeah, I think it's very reasonable to think, and he's even commented on a little bit that, the NBA is a grind. Rookies find that out very quickly. It's I don't have 3 days to prepare for the next game. I just have to sort of get one kind of day of rest, and then I've got to go back out there and perform again. So it's amazing when we take that for granted. We look at the 3-point shots that he's able to consistently put up, and the amazing effort that he's able to give on the defensive end of the floor night in, night out. and the points that he was putting up and the minutes that he was giving him, we take it for granted. We say, oh, that he's great. And we don't even like think about like, oh my God, he's doing this every other night when he was getting, 3 or 4 nights in between games when he was playing at Duke. So the reason why I say I hope he is right now is because it is still relatively early in the season. And you've got LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller coming back, and they are getting more and more minutes. So they are going to release some of that pressure that's been put on Knueppel by virtue of the fact that he was playing so well and they didn't have Brandon Miller or LaMelo Ball. So this would be a great time to hit the rookie wall because now they can, they can start to work these other guys back in. He can get a little bit of rest or at least pressure off of him. He can work himself out. And look, he's, you looked at that game against Chicago and he's shooting through it. I haven't seen any loss of confidence. There was a little bit of that in Summer League. Like when he struggled a little bit to start Summer League, you could see like he kind of came back a little bit and then boom, he hit his stride and got into gear. I haven't even seen that. Like I think he's struggling from the field right now. Luckily, I think he's got a lot of good guys around him that are going to, work him through this. And I just think he just seems to be about the right things. I'm not really, even if he is hitting the rookie wall, I'm not worried about it. I think it's a good time for him to hit the rookie wall. Let's go to another one here. This one comes to us from Luke from the 7th Lynn Legion, who says, sickest question, break down what this regime would have done if they were in place in the Kemba era, especially post-Heat playoff loss. The last time the Charlotte Hornets were in the playoffs, 9 years ago, 2016, almost 10 years ago, and they lose. They had Jeremy Lin. Good pull here from the Sicko Brigade name that you've picked, because they had Lin. Lin was a big part of that team. They let Lin go to the Brooklyn Nets. He would go and get injured, and the career would kind of sputter from there. They lose Big Al, who was, with Kemba, the heart and soul. But they had already they were coming to terms with that. It wasn't like a sudden thing. Like he was less of a factor as that season went along. You saw the writing on the wall. It was, they had to move on from Big Al. But what they didn't do is they didn't fill that heart or that soul that was left behind by both Lin and by Al Jefferson. The thing is like, okay, so if you're asking me if you plopped them into the Hornets organization right after that Heat loss, what would they do? I think they don't bet low on Roy Hibbert. Because I think you had a sustainable core that could have gotten back to the playoffs had you invested in the center position, had you made some moves, had you been willing to go over the cap. This is a difficult question to answer because we don't have a lot of experience. We have zero. It's not that we don't have a lot. So we have zero experience with how this front office would operate given a Hornets even postseason appearance. We don't even know what they would do after a play-in appearance. So it's almost, I hate to dodge this one, but it's an almost impossible one to answer. But I think they would have been more savvy in deals. I don't think they would have dealt for Miles Plumlee. Like that was a gross move when it happened under all the context of when they made it. That was a gross move. I have more trust in, and that was a panic move. I haven't seen panic moves from this version of the organization. So I don't think that that's what would happen. But if you're asking me, like, I don't know that they would have even been in that position because, like, part of the reason why you had to let Lin go and you couldn't really reload is because you had already doled out these what individually seemed like good contracts, whether it was to Zeller or Marvin or whatever. I mean, Kemba's deal was a steal. but like you gave all these like individual contracts out, and then, but what it did is it stacked your books such that you had to make, buy low bets on Lynn and then Hibbert later, but you couldn't pay off the Lynn bet. So Lynn explodes for the Hornets, but you couldn't do anything about it. You could have. And there's the thing. It's like, will this version of the organization, when they do strike gold, will they pay it off? And you have a little bit of evidence in that, like, they kind of, sort of, I won't say gold, but they struck something with Trey Mann, and the injury halted that. But they were willing to invest in Trey Mann because they saw something in that little game stretch that said, hey, there's something special here. We should, the injury was unfortunate, seems to be fully healthy. Let's invest in it. But that bet's not paying off. And there's a second part of Luke's question here that I want to get to coming up on Locked On Hornets.
Bees everywhere!
Trey Mann, is he the biggest flop this season for the Charlotte Hornets? Biggest one. Is it Trey Mann? That's the question from Luke. I'll answer it coming up. Locked On Hornets. Today's episode of Locked On Hornets is brought to you by our friends at DoorDash. The NBA season, it's heating up, folks. DoorDash has found the perfect way to keep fans in their bag all season long, whether you're watching for highlights, your fantasy team, or just your favorite player. DoorDash makes every game night even better. DoorDash, the official on-demand delivery platform of the NBA, and they are celebrating with something called the Bag Drop. Every time an NBA player scores 50 points in a game, DoorDash drops 50% off your order with Dash Pass the next day, and you're automatically entered for a chance to win the ultimate fan bag. We're talking about player-inspired drip, exclusive gear, and the stuff you actually want. I love that DoorDash is not just about food. Like, started like that for me, but it's not just about food. You can get anything you want. Snacks, drinks, headphones, ice. You can get socks on DoorDash. I'm not kidding. All delivered directly to your door. DoorDash has you covered for late night highlights, last minute watch parties, and double OT fuel ups. So next time someone goes off for 50, use promo code NBA50 the next day to get 50% off on DoorDash with Dash Pass. Plus, your shot at the bag drop. Dash Pass members only, 50% off, up to $10 the day after a 50-point game with promo code. Terms apply. No purchase necessary. Ends April 13th. Open to U.S. residents 21 or older. Visit DoorDashInYourBag.com for full details. DoorDash in your bag all season long. This episode is also brought to you by Gametime. I'll do it without Walker. Gametime. Basketball season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real. Getting tickets can be a total headache between waiting in queues, surprise fees, prices that jump right before checkout. I hate when that happens. It's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. That's where Gametime comes in. It's the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NBA tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. I love that what you see is what you pay. There's no hidden fees at checkout to surprise you, none of that. Plus, I can see exactly what my view is going to look like before I buy the tickets with the in-app seat view feature. Love that. Their zone deals are a game changer. You pick the section, Gametime picks your seats, and you save big. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Gametime. More Locked On NBA. Locked On Hornets. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Back here on Locked On Hornets, getting to your sicko satchel questions. You can ask your question in the satchel. Join subtext.com/Locked On Hornets. If you haven't joined before, you can get a 7-day free trial. You can text directly with me. It's fun. It goes to your phone. It's in your text app. It's super cool. And I'm answering your questions here in the sicko satchel. This one, again, from Luke of the 7th Lynn Legion, who asks on Trey Mann, if he is the biggest flop, is that a good thing? How could we package him for a good return? It's not a good thing that Trey Mann is a flop, because they did invest. Even if you see it as a value contract, they invested money in him that they can't invest other places. They need him to be good. these lineups with him and Colin Sexton are not working. They're resulting in turnovers and bad offense and over dribbling. And his scoring has been some of the least efficient scoring in the NBA. I don't know what it is. It can't be any better after the Chicago Bulls game. But before the Bulls game, we had some number polls from NBA University on X who said that Trey Mann is like second to last in true shooting percentage from players that shoot enough like to qualify as someone you would look at their true shooting percentage. It's 46%. It's abysmal. And in the game against Chicago, it didn't get any better. 14 minutes of play, 5 points off the bench, 2 of 5 shooting, and 2 turnovers. 2 turnovers in 14 minutes. It's not good. And the minutes have been trending down. We get some season numbers here from Trey Mann. 9.7 points per game on 10 shots per game, 36.6% from the field. Not really getting to the line at all. And there's where the true shooting percentage numbers come in. That's true shooting percentage. Are you getting to the line? Are you shooting more threes than twos? His three-point percentage is 31%. I mean, I haven't noticed. Well, let's. I wanted to say I haven't noticed that his game looks significantly different because of the injury, but his game has looked significantly different because, as the Hornets admitted, they were changing his role up, and his role seems to be more. Well, honestly, like they made it sound like his role at the beginning of the season was going to be more catch and shoot opportunities, more off ball. But then it kind of changed again into more of an on-ball playmaker role, and that's not really suiting him well because he can't make plays. Like the magic that was Trey Mann last season was his ability to make plays for himself. But he has been a flop. And I would say he's been the biggest flop this season. In a season in which we're talking about the Hornets possibly trading their only all-star in recent memory in LaMelo Ball. You think that would be a flop, and the way LaMelo's shooting has been a flop. But not the biggest one, because you can dream of a scenario where LaMelo quickly works himself out of this. We've seen him work himself out of these funks before. This Trey Mann stuff is really worrying because you're not going to, I will say it's difficult to move that deal, but if teams get desperate, the Hornets could facilitate a deal with that kind of money, but you would get significantly better return if Trey Mann were balling out and you move that deal, because it's a good deal. A player playing above that level of the deal, flipping that player for assets or for another player that maybe would provide you defense. Like that's the thing, like Trey Mann's defense not very good. But if he were balling out on offense, you could say this about a couple of players on this team right now, not playing well enough offensively to where you go, man, it would be great because we could flip those players for defense. Like this team needed to be excellent offensively for a lot of reasons, but one of those reasons is because then you could have players that you could flip for defense, because there are going to be playoff teams that are going to need players that can hit three-point shots. They're going to need players that can play well in transition. And, your points per shot attempt leaders for the Charlotte Hornets right now are Kalkbrenner, Diabate, Knueppel, and Sexton. So Sexton is the one guy that you kind of lock in and go, as much as you like Colin Sexton, expiring deal, struggles on defense, size issues, but plays really well offensively and can provide a spark off the bench for a playoff team. I wouldn't run out and buy a Sexton jersey is what I'm telling you. I wouldn't do that, because he's one of the few players you can look at and say that's a player that they can move. Because Miles, Mann, Tijon, KJ Simpson, none of these players have shown that. And Pat Connaughton has, but really hasn't been given the opportunity. And I don't think teams are very interested in the Pat Connaughton experience anymore. Just an older player. It's just like the time has come and gone for Pat as a player that you would trade for to make an impact on your playoff team. Fits a role here on a young team, probably not a playoff team. So I hope that answers your question. Two good questions there by Luke. Coming up on the Locked On Hornets podcast,
Bees everywhere!
I've got one more very important Sicko Satchel question to answer. And we may squeeze a few more in. We've got a couple minutes here left on the show. But Shuman asks a question about what next season will look like. And that's the sickest question of all. It's like, we got enough to deal with this season. We got to talk about next season. It's the sickest question of all. Stay tuned. Locked On Hornets. Today's episode of Locked On Hornets is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than on FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has the live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can combine some of your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at an even bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. And I'll just tell you right now, I know I just said the NBA, but also the NFL, and I've already made my Super Bowl pick. I'm not going to give it away, but I just had a vision of what the Super Bowl would be, and I go to FanDuel and I can make that Super Bowl prediction make me money. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Today's episode is also brought to you by Drip Drop. When I'm hydrated, everything just works better. My voice works better, my energy is better, my focus, mood, even my skin is better when I'm hydrated. That's why I've been using Drip Drop. It's doctor-developed hydration that keeps me running at full power no matter what my day looks like. Drip Drop isn't your average sports drink. It delivers 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of leading brands using a science-backed formula trusted by medical professionals, firefighters, and over 90% of top college and pro teams. Make it a part of your daily routine. You can have a packet in the morning before the gym or during that midday slump. It actually tastes amazing, and it will be your secret weapon for staying sharp and energized through long days. Hydration is a non-negotiable. Drip Drop helps you feel sharper, calmer, and honestly, it just makes you feel better overall. Right now, Drip Drop is offering podcast listeners 20% off your first order. Go to dripdrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNBA. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONNBA for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard and keep your body and mind performing at their best with Drip Drop. More Locked On Hornets ahead. All right, here we go. Back to the Sicko Satchel. Shuman of the let's see, what is Shuman? I want to get this right. This is what the Sicko Satchel is all about, is getting your name read on the air, but also getting your Sicko brigade name. And I should know it by now, but it's Shuman of the 22nd Mullins Regiment, of course. Lord Byron Mullins, how could I forget? One of my favorite Bobcats of all time. Although I did see a great stat, and I'm not going to be able to say the stat exactly, but it was a good Knueppel stat about how well he's played. And on this list of, I'm just going to say it right now, Walter Herman was on the list. Bobcats legend Walter Herman. It was like 4 straight games of whatever he did during that stretch, whatever Khan did during that stretch where he was like an automatic 28 points per game. Walter Herman somehow managed to be that effective offensively for the Charlotte Bobcats. And I just I want to do a 30 for 30. I want to do a 30 for 30 on Walter Herman and a moment in time as a Bobcats fan where you felt like the Bobcats, who were just miserable, had found gold, that they were going somewhere, that Walter Herman was going to take them there. And it was just one of many Bobcats mirages because we weren't sick at that point. We're sick now. We were in the desert. We were dying. We weren't sick then. We were dying. And we were thirsty, and we just kept seeing these mirages in the desert. We were lost. That was not sickness. We were just completely and utterly lost. So, don't envy those times. But I do envy Walter. I do envy cheering for Walter Herman because that was a magical time. So Schumann of the 22nd Mullins Regiment asked this in the Sicko Satchel. After the current struggles, how can you sell me on what next season will look like? The vibes were so high starting out, and now I'm slowly accepting what this season is. The same song, different verse as the past 2 to 3 seasons. I love the rookies. I like our improving depth, but man, this apple still has some brown spots. What should happen this season to set us up for a real playoff push for 2027? Make it make sense. Also check out Subtext because venting to Doug just may save your sanity. Thank you. I vent to myself sometimes. That's saved my sanity. And now my producer Katie thinks I'm insane, but I vent to myself oftentimes. So Schumann is right about that. Can I sell you on next season? I'm not sure I can yet. I mean, I think we just got to see both what LaMelo and Brandon look like off a minutes restriction. And I know this isn't a great answer. I know wait and see has been all that Hornets fans have been doing for many, many years. I understand that that's not even a good answer. It's not a perfect answer. It's not even a good answer. But that's what this regime is doing right now. They want to see it. They desperately want to see it. And that's why LaMelo is on a minutes restriction, is because they want to see him without a minutes restriction. And they feel like had they brought him back, full 35 minutes plus, that it was just going to be the same result as the past couple of seasons. I think they looked back on those seasons and they said, we want to learn a lesson from that as opposed to repeating the same mistakes. And at least if he gets injured again, then they can say, all right, we literally tried everything. We tried everything. Now we can definitively say, all right, this is an injury-prone player. There's nothing we can do. They wanted to exhaust everything, which is sort of probably the opposite of the opposite extreme of Nico Harrison and the Mavericks, who said we want to try nothing or try very little with Luka Doncic. We just want to move on immediately. And you can take issues with both ends of that spectrum. Because I certainly, if he gets injured again, I certainly will take issue with it, because I think you probably had opportunities to move on earlier and could have reaped something. And if he gets injured again, if he injures his ankle again, then it's over. Can I sell you on next season? I can sell you on the rookies. I mean, I think that's and I've said this before, I think that's the big difference between what we saw in the past couple of seasons and what we see now, is that it's not even about just the rookies and how they're performing and how they're going to grow. It's that you have an organization that can draft, that can go in with a plan and can draft. They obviously took a swing on Tijon, but I think you have to lay in the context of that draft and say, okay, now we also have evidence of them performing in a stronger draft and coming up with multiple hits. So I can sell you on the future. I can sell you on the long-term future of the health of the organization. I don't know that I can sell you on next season, because so much of that is going to depend on, can the Hornets pivot quickly enough if this version of if Brandon, LaMelo is not going to work. And if it doesn't, and if it's because LaMelo gets injured again, they're not going to be able to pivot. They're just going to have to hope Brandon, Khan, and a significantly reduced version of LaMelo Ball is going to be enough. That Khan's, development curve is going to be enough to help them compete. That they can use multiple picks to add a third piece to the equation that could help it ascend. And so that, again, if I'm selling you on next season, it's that we came into this thing thinking Con was one thing, and now all of a sudden he is a completely different thing. And the completely different thing aspect of Con Knueppel opens up some routes to this team being competitive that honestly are only going to fully realize or fully unveil themselves at the end of this season when we see everything that Con's learned and see him put that to use. Because, honestly, it would have been tough for me in LaMelo's rookie season on November 28th of that season for me to sell you on the vision of the franchise after that. It was only till the end of that season when we said, well, okay, what we saw at the beginning of the season was not an illusion. It wasn't, PJ Washington going off at the first couple of games and then becoming, a good role player, but not a star. At the end of the Rookie of the Year campaign, we said, no, the Hornets have a future star here. At the end of this season, hopefully we're all saying the same thing about Con Knueppel. And at that point, I can sell you on next season. Until then, it's going to be more difficult. Let me scroll through here on the satchel and see if I can get a couple more questions here. I can. Here we go. This one is from David from Gastonia's 00 Hawes Battalion. One of the many centers they relied on during that weird, post 15-16 figuring it out phase. Ask this, Brandon Miller, what is going on with him? Does the injury have him skittish? He doesn't seem to be the same player from early last season. And this question was sent in at 7 o'clock, so right after the Chicago Bulls game tipped off. So I think maybe a little bit of that question is answered by his performance, at least on the offensive end of the floor. I think the injury has him out of rhythm. I mean, that shoulder is severely taped up. I'd be hard pressed to say that he's not still feeling that shoulder. Maybe he isn't. But that thing is taped up pretty damn good. So, and it wasn't an extremely long absence, and there was no surgical intervention. So I would say that there may be just some working through of that process. And he's on a minutes restriction, and there are a lot of new factors, particularly with Con Knueppel's rise. There are a lot of new factors for him to work himself back into. I think that's all it is. I think it's getting his shooting rhythm back. I think you started to see it, and now he's got to, commit himself to the defensive end of the floor again. I'm not really worried about Brandon Miller at all. I'm worried about the future of that shoulder and his overall ability to stay healthy. I'm definitely worried about that. Not in a severe way, but I think in a healthy way. But I'm not worried about him finding his groove. I mean, I think he, the possibilities of him going on a heater over the next 5 or 6 games. I don't think the Hornets are going to reel off 5 or 6 wins, but I mean, the possibility of him having 5 or 6 good games is definitely not out of the question. All right. Thanks for all your Psychosexual questions. Thanks for a great month of Locked On Hornets here. It's all due to your support. Thanks for making us your first listen and for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 podcast network, sports podcast network out there. I can't wait to get back with Walker Mail in December, December 1st, Monday. We're going to talk about the Hornets even more. Until then, go Hornets, go America. Let's swarm Charlotte.